Well, hello Rockhounds, Lapidary lovers, Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to do a little maintenance on Lazarus. That's what I've named our 16-inch Lortone Lapidary saw, which is old as the hills. I would be surprised if this thing's older than I am. It's been through multiple past owners. It's heavily modified from the way it came from the factory. It's in rough shape, although I have managed to rebuild it and bring it back from the dead a couple of times, hence the name Lazarus, and it's still going strong. I cut a lot of rocks in this thing, and that's why we need to do some maintenance on it today. The inside is pretty grungy, especially since I've been cutting some banded iron and some red jasper. It kind of looks like I've been slaughtering cattle in there, okay? The oil's all blood red. There's blood red goo all over the inside of it. And it's been piling up, too. And I'll show you why it's been piling up. Well, this box of rocks right here is why it's been piling up, okay? So I had a whole bunch of banded iron and red jasper and petrified wood, a lot of which has red jasper in it, too. That was just sitting around not doing anything. It wasn't nice enough to slab, but it was too nice to just throw out. So I spent a day and a half just cutting it up into pieces. Even though these are pretty big, they are small enough to fit in the 12-pound tumbler on my home-built high-capacity rock tumbler. I'll put a link to that in the upper right if you want to check it out. So I've cut these all small enough to fit in the 12-pound tumbler drum that I've got on my high-capacity tumbler. So that pretty much did the saw in. It was already really dirty and grungy, but after cutting all this stuff, all the banded iron, red jasper, red petrified wood, it was done. Okay, there is a thick layer of grunge in here. The oil's all nasty, so it's time to clean it out. Clean it out, put some fresh oil in it. Now this time, because this darn oil has gotten so expensive over the last couple of years, we're going to try and recycle the oil too. Although that may be in a future video, because cleaning this thing out may take a while. This may end up being a long enough video without getting into recycling. But we're going to try and save as much of the oil out of here as we can and see if we can filter it and recycle it. So anyway, let me move these rocks out of the way and we'll take a look inside Lazarus and I'll show you why he needs to clean up. All right, so let's open her up and see what we're working with here. Oh yeah. That's pretty bad. I let it get pretty bad, I have to say. Yeah. All that banded iron and red jasper, it really looks pretty bad. I need to clean up inside the lid too. Oh, and there's a little window over there, which you can't really see from this angle very well. It doesn't give you much of a view generally. But I need to really clean up around that and probably caulk around it because we're getting some oil coming out through the window and running down the side of the saw. So that probably needs to be recaulked. But yeah, there's a lot of, well, basically rock dust in there all mixed with the oil. And now this isn't actually as bad as it looks because what we do is we keep bricks in here. So there's quite a few bricks over here. And this is just the rock dust settled on top of the bricks, all right? So it's maybe, I don't know, at the most an 1/8 of an inch thick. And on the other side of the blade over under here, we've got another line of bricks. So there's like a well of no bricks that the blade sits in. And we do that just so we don't have to put like 15, 20 gallons of oil in this thing to keep the bottom of the blade submerged. The bricks displace a lot of space, so it only takes like a gallon and a half of oil to fill this thing up. So I think what I'm going to do here is, let me give you another angle on it. So maybe you can see what I'm talking about a little better. Yeah, you see the little well down there between the bricks? That's where the blade sits down in that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape as much of the stuff off of here, off of the bricks, off the sides, off up here, down into that well where the blade sits as I can. And then I'll take my wet dry back and I'll just suck all that stuff out. All right. It's not going to be a perfect cleanup job. Not worried about getting it spick and span and factory new. I mean, this thing hasn't been factory new in 50-some years. So, but I just want to get the bulk of it out of it. And we'll put some fresh oil in it. And maybe we'll cut a geode or something before the end of this video just to test her out and see how she works. But also what I want to do is something I haven't done before. I want to try and recycle the oil that's in here. My buddy Jim, who is my mentor in all things lapidary, has told me his method for recycling oil. He says, yes, it can be done. He gave me some ideas on how to filter the oil, and we'll see just how well that works too. So let me get started. I think my first step probably better be to get into clothes I don't mind ruining, because this is going to be really, really messy. And this red oil is going to stain. Okay, so let me change clothes and we'll get started. Alrighty, let's get started on this disaster. Now, the best way to do this would probably be to take the blade out and give me much better access to everything, but I'm not going to do that just because it's a pain in the butt. The nut that holds the blade on is so rounded over from being changed for 50 odd years. It's really hard to get on and off. I have to get my vice grips out and hold on to it while I loosen it up. I'm not going to bother. We're just going to do the best job we can, starting with getting these big chips off the tray up here on top. I've moved my garbage can and a roll of paper towels within easy reach. I've got gloves on, but I'm sure I'm still going to get it all over me, but that's okay because I'm wearing clothes that, well, they're half ruined already. So what's a little more ruination, right? Okay, so I want to try and get as much of this slime up here as possible down. Get it down into that well down there. And then we'll just vacuum it all out with the wet dry vac. More on that process when we get to it. And like I said, this is by no means going to be, you know, spick and span, factory fresh, anything like that. I'm just going to get the bulk of this crud out of it so that we can get back to work. Uh-oh. Well, we'll just go handle this then. All right. I might actually be able to get in here a little easier without the handle on it. Work from the top down here. Alright, best I can. Yeah, I found a nice geode to cut in this once we're done cleaning it up. Put some fresh oil in it. At least I hope it's a nice geode. You never know until you actually slice the things, whether they're any good on the inside or not. This one, though, I have high hopes for, given what the outside looks like. I'll show it to you later. See, I don't know how much of the top you can see. Oh wow, there's a lot of sludge stuck to the top. Let's see. Get as much of this out of here as we can. contains a lot of oil, which I want to try and recycle. So I don't want to just wipe the sludge out of the top here and throw it away with a paper towel. I'll wipe what I can't scrape out. But yeah, I want to try and recycle this. Now, I'm going to scrape this stuff towards the well here. Now you can start to see the bricks down there. The advantages and disadvantages to using these bricks, okay? The main advantage is that you use a whole lot less oil, which is quite expensive, especially if you use the specialty saw oil, which I don't generally do because it is so expensive. I know, the food grade stuff, not right for the saw. You don't have to tell me, I know that. I do have a few tricks for thinning it. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. Nobody will probably like that either, but you know, you do what you gotta do to stay within the budget. But anyway, yeah, the main advantage of using these bricks to displace a lot of oil is you don't need as much oil. You know, there's probably less than 2 gallons of oil in this thing. So that's a beautiful thing. Now the problems with using the bricks, a couple of them. Number one, your saw gets dirty real quick because if you actually have 5-6 gallons of oil in here, all this crud sitting on top of the bricks sinks to the bottom and you don't see it. And you live under the illusion that your saw is much cleaner than it really is, okay? It doesn't look as nasty when you open it up and show it to somebody. So that's one advantage. So that's one disadvantage. Another disadvantage, you know, of using the bricks is since you have so little oil in here, the oil can get hot in a prolonged cutting session, okay? If you got 5-6 gallons of oil in here, it takes a long time for it to get really hot as it cools the blade down during a long cutting session. But if you only have, you know, 2 gallons, maybe 1.5 gallons in here, it'll heat up pretty quick. So that's a bit of a disadvantage. I don't normally do really long cutting sessions with it. You know, or cut just, you know, tons of rocks in a row. It usually gets a chance to rest for a while. So the brick thing is actually working pretty good for me. As you can see, we're not going to get all this stuff out of here. It's down between the bricks, stuck in the bricks. So the saw is not going to be squeaky clean when I'm done, but I will have like 90% or more of the crud out of it. The hard part is getting up under here and cleaning over here. This is where I'm going to get really dirty. Over here, behind the blade, just scrape all the stuff off the bricks back there and down into the well. Okay. And of course, I can't really get behind the blade here. By the way, the saw is unplugged before somebody asks. Yes, the saw is unplugged. I don't have a death wish, although this blade really isn't very sharp, but I'm sure it could do a number on my hand if it were to come on. So, yeah, the saw is unplugged. Okay. that's a good start. Let me grab some paper towels and see if I can clean up a little better around it. Before we move on to trying to suck all the stuff out of the well. I've been trying to clean up the top. There's just a never-ending supply of red goo up there. In fact, there's a never-ending supply of red goo pretty much everywhere in here. Get that out of there. But we'll get the bulk of it out and just live with what's left, because I'm sure I'll be back to cutting red jasper and banded iron pretty darn soon. So, yeah, first couple of cuts, it's going to look like this again. There's just no keeping it clean. You know, if I had one of the nice newer saws that circulated the oil and filtered it and all that good stuff, that'd be great. Not in the budget. It's not yet. Feel free to hit me up on PayPal. You know, if you want to contribute towards that. But really, it is just not in the budget. Love to have it, but it is not a requirement by any means. This old beast will continue to serve, I'm sure. All right. We're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Yes, I'm serious. Don't call me Shirley. Extra credit if you know what movie that's from. Double extra credit if you saw it in the theater. All right. Yeah, we're getting there. Getting there. Get oil all over my camera when I started up the film. Nasty. I'm going to wipe that off. But I'm going to wring out my rag here. Get the oil out of it. So we want to recycle as much of that as possible. Okay. I think we are just about ready to get the vacuum out. But you see why I tend to put this job off. You know, I'll give it a quickie cleanup now and then. Scrape as many of the solids out of the well as I can. Add fresh oil to it. But a good cleanup like this, well, it tends to get put off and put off and put off. Especially when the saw is working really well. I mean, like right now, it was working great before I did this cleanup, but I knew the well is getting filled up with crap, so it's about time to do something about it. All right. Do a little more wiping up out of here, and then we'll get the vacuum out. Alrighty, so one putty knife and most of a roll of paper towel later, it's looking a whole lot better. So I don't think there's much more I can do without the vacuum. So let me vacuum out the well down here. And I expect it to get plugged with rock chips fairly frequently, so this could be annoying. I have a plastic garbage bag. I'm using my bucket vacuum here, my bucket head vacuum, over a 5-gallon bucket. I've got a plastic trash bag in the bucket. I want to catch all the oily debris, and we'll try to recycle it. So let's see how this goes. I'm losing suction somewhere. Not sure what's going on, but we are definitely losing suction here. Yeah, it was working good at first, but now I don't seem to be getting squat. Oh, okay. Well, that might be the problem right there. Okay, maybe I can't go with a garbage bag in here because it gets sucked up around the filter. Alright. The filter's probably not a great idea either, but hey, we got a lot of liquid in here. So I will set this aside for recycling, and we'll see what we can get without a bag. I think the bag was getting sucked up against the filter, and that was causing our problem. Let's see. right, there we go. That is a dramatic improvement. Uh-oh, got backflow coming out here. But, okay, so that's good. Put this in here just in case there's a little bit more backflow. So we got some rock chips and actually some little pieces of wood here that I used for wedging rocks in, and they got cut off during the cuts. Now that's what all that is. I knew they wouldn't get sucked up through the nozzle, so I just pulled them out. Yeah, I've kind of given up on the gloves. I think the mineral oil softened them anyway. They were falling apart. So, well, my hands will be baby soft after this. And I don't know about my vacuum here. I may have to buy another bucket head. And this one may just be for cleaning oil out of the saw from now on. Because once you get oil in it, I don't know if it's ever going to be good for anything else. This thing's half plugged with rock chips. I'm surprised it still worked as well as it did. I'll have to unplug that. Alright, so let me do a little cleaning up here. We'll get some fresh oil in it and cut something. Put something in there and cut it. And, whew, yeah, you see why I put this job off. As long as I can. Alright, let's see what's in here. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. Alright, I'm going to put this back in here and just let it drip and drain. Get it out of the way. And I will slit that bag that I had in there and drain the liquid and wet solids in it into there too, so that I can recycle it. I think the recycling might be a second video though. Alright, so let me get some oil in here. Now, sorry it's very noisy here on the farm today. There's a lot going on. Mineral oil, yes, I know it's not saw grade. This is animal grade mineral oil. Just sort of wash things down here with it. I know that. Alright. I know you're supposed to use the saw grade stuff. But like I said before, that is a whole lot more expensive. And I have a little trick. I know the saw grade stuff has a lower viscosity, which helps clear the rock chips, okay? So I have a little trick. Which is probably going to be very controversial for the people who watch this. Alright, they're probably going to say, no, don't do that. I'm going to add about 10% odorless mineral spirits to this. And I have found, that leaf out of there, that dramatically reduces the viscosity of this oil. Doesn't stink, doesn't make it smoke any worse, and it doesn't make it flammable. As long as I only stick to about 10%. Alright? And a lot of people, I'm sure, will have trouble with that. They'll say, no, don't do that, it's bad. But so far, it's worked great for me. I mean, some people say use kerosene, some people say use diesel, some people say use this, that, or the other. Because really, kerosene and diesel stink too bad. Okay, I don't want that all over me, I don't want that all over my rocks. The odorless mineral spirits, as the name implies, is totally odorless. So, it doesn't stink, and it lowers the viscosity. Alright, let me reconnect my safety chain before I forget. It would be a bad thing if I was cutting a big rock and wandered away during the cut. Alright, speaking of big rocks, let me go find my big geode I want to cut. We'll put it in here, and give it a shot. So here's the big geode I want to cut. It is pretty big. You can see by my hand here, bigger than a softball. Heavy, may not be hollow. But what gives me high hopes for it is, look at all the blue-gray agate stuff slathered on the outside of it. So who knows what's on the inside of it? That's the problem with geodes. You never know till you cut them open what's on the inside. And I never know what the best way to cut these is, too. Without x-ray vision, you don't know. So I think I'm just going to put it in the saw the best way I can hold it. This side's fairly flat. And I could probably clamp it like this. And maybe we can cut it right through here and see what's on the inside. Or I could clamp it like this and cut it through here. So, decisions. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to cut it this way. If I can clamp it this way, I'm going to cut it this way. And we'll see. Because most of the agate stuff's on this side. So, I don't know. I might be making a mistake. It might only be half of it might be pretty on the inside. If I cut it this way, I might have a whole pretty half and an ugly half. If I cut it this way, I might have, a pretty quarter and an ugly quarter of both halves. I don't know, but I'm gonna cut it this way, and we'll just see what we get. All right, I managed to get the geode clamped in there the way I want to cut it. I think we'll get pretty close to half and half. When you're clamping round stuff, it's pretty hard sometimes to actually cut it exactly in half. You generally have to clamp a little more than half of it. Oh, and you know what? It's not going to do anything if I don't plug it back in. So let me do that. All right, so here we go. Well, see what we get with that geode. I hope it's pretty. I carried that all the way from Arizona, so I hope it's working. All right, the saw got quiet. So let's have a look. Oh, well, not as pretty as I'd hoped. It's solid like I thought, but boy, that's a clean looking saw though, compared to where we started. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Yeah. And I did not get around to caulking the window on this side, but I got to thinking that I will never get enough oil off to get the caulk to stick. So what I did was I tightened all the bolts along the window frame and squeezed the gasket a little better, and hopefully that will reduce the leakage out around the window. On this single cut, which it's going to take a few cuts to see if that improved things, but on this single cut, it doesn't really look like it leaked any. Okay, so let me get these out, and we'll wipe the excess oil off of them. We'll take a look at them up under the bench lights and see how they look. Maybe they look better up under the better lighting than they do down here in the saw. We'll see. All right, I don't know how well that is showing up, but all right, this is completely full of quartz crystals, but they are very transparent. I can see way down into the geode. And we got like some milky quartz or agate stuff around the edge. So these are better looking than I thought. Once I get them up on the bench and get them under some decent light, yeah, they're not terrible. The reflections here can be terrible though. All right. So, but yeah, look at that. Yeah, the detail's not showing up as well as I'd like on the camera. I can see with my eye just how transparent these quartz crystals are. And I can see way down into them. And I see refraction effects like from a prism, from the edges of the crystals, all kinds of different colors. And the milky bands around the edge. So, not the prettiest geode I've ever cut, but okay. It's not the ugliest one either. So I hope you enjoyed this bit of maintenance on Lazarus here, our 16-inch Lortone lapidary saw that I've brought back from the dead a few times. It's nice and squeaky clean, but the first time I cut banded iron or red Jasper in it, it'll look pretty much like it did before, except there won't be quite so much solid debris hanging out on top of the bricks and in the well down there. that's going to take a while to build up. But the oil will turn blood red again, and it'll be all nasty and all over the inside of it. So anyway, I hope you found this bit of maintenance on Lazarus here interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. If so, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see my future lapidary videos. There will be more coming. And check out my two other channels, Electro Geek 64 and Omega Geek 64. There's always interesting stuff going on over on those two channels too. So check them out. Like, subscribe, and comment if you wouldn't mind. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.